Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Sunday, June 30th. And what does that time mean? It's the Sunday sermon. Yes, it is. Trying to feed the mind and the soul. Today we're going to talk about the hand you dealt with, the hand that you're dealt, and what you do with it. Makes a big difference. So stay tuned. Alrighty, so welcome back. If you didn't already know, my name is Eric, and today is Sunday, June 30th, and it's the Sunday sermon time, right? So I was pondering this thought the other day. What creates happiness and a good experience versus a negative experience, right? And why do some people focus on the negative and not the positive? And why do some people start doing a lot of what they love to do, but then they don't get that craving for it anymore? And you know how I am with examples. We'll cover all of them. So, an example is the hand you're dealt. And basically, it's potluck, all right? When you're born into this world, you don't have a choice of picking either a rich parent or a poor parent, a good parent, bad parent. You know, being brought up in poverty or just giving money hand over fist to that child. So it is like a card game. You don't know what you're going to get until you look at your hand. And the ones that are given the hand of poverty are like they're trying to figure out how to make these cards into a good poker hand, right? And I don't know if you can fake it till you make it at that point, but if you can bluff, that's wonderful. Because I've seen a lot of card games won on a bluff, right? But the guy that's, been given a full house or a straight, he is more apt to win the pot unless the poor one can bluff him into folding, right? But that brings us to how is it that some people in poverty become well off and somebody born into money can end up with nothing? It's all in what you do with it, right? See, society tells us that we're supposed to all feel like we're racist. We're underclass. We're not as good. And give us excuses of why we shouldn't do this or that. That would be a plus or a positive if you did. See, if somebody gave me an excuse for every bad things I've done, why would I correct it? I've been given an excuse of why I am the way I am. Right? So what motivates people? What is the tendency? The tendency of the brain, yeah, to be totally honest with you, is the brain looks at the negative more than the positive. All right? And it remembers more the negative than it does the positive. Just take yourself, at the end of the day, and you sit there, you're pondering the day. The highlights probably are going to be the negatives. And the positives have a tendency of getting discounted. But that's the brain's way of survival. And then how is it? Because I do a lot of thinking, as you can well figure out. But why is it that when you first have something that you've never had before, let's say an ice cream sandwich or an ice cream sundae, 3 different kinds of ice cream, the banana split, we'll go with the whole works, right? And you've never had one before, and you have it, and you find it delicious. It's outstanding. But the thing is after having that ice cream sundae or banana split, what have you, for 5 times in that week, you're not getting that initial, wow, this is great. You're just chowing down, thinking about the negative things that went on during the week, or what somebody said, or what they meant by what they said. And next thing you know, the bowl of ice cream is gone. The craving is still there. It's still delicious. And the brain is teaching to keep getting it because the body likes it. But then it loses its craving aspect. And I can give an example of a friend of mine. He loved to fish. And all he ever dreamed about was being able to get a piece of property on a body of water where he could fish every day of the week. All right? And up through our childhood and stuff, he couldn't wait for Saturday to go fishing at the creek or to go up to camp, and do a little bit of fishing. Give us kids a fish pole and you didn't have to worry about anything else, right? But as he got older, he finally could afford to buy that house on the lake. And he bought a decent boat. And for the first year, he spent a lot of time fishing. But when that second year come back around, he did less, a lot less. And by that third year, he never even bothered putting the boat in the water. And that's why, that's the example of sometimes having a good thing too often can lessen the craving for it. And why is it you take two people, okay, both born into poverty, and what I've seen over the years is what we call being on welfare, okay? That it becomes a generational thing. That they continue and then their kids continue staying on welfare, on poverty. Even though they're able-bodied, they can work. They don't. And why is that? It's because that's what's taught to them. That's what is the norm. And they don't know any other thing. As far as why should they even achieve it? They're not going to amount to anything. Right? So you have the generational of staying in that poverty versus the same person born into poverty and becoming very successful and running a multi-million-dollar or owning a multi-million-dollar business. What is the difference between the two? And the one in poverty has accepted that fate and that this is the norm, and this is what the parents and the grandparents have been doing for years, and this is what we do. This is. But the one that ended up owning a multi-million-dollar business was not willing to keep being in poverty. The pain of being in poverty was more so that they were willing to do anything to escape it, to escape the grip that it had on them. And they vowed to themselves, most of them do, an internal struggle of, I am going to make it. And they get the drive, and they look at goal setting and where their benchmark is. And they're not easily deterred. They have a deterrence, and that is they don't want to be what their parents were. Same people in different families under the same circumstances. One succeeds, and the other one, in a way, they feel like they have succeeded. You know, it's how you take a manufacturing plant or a mill or a mine or something like that in certain areas, and it's generational. They work at the same company or the same manufacturing plant for generations because that's what the prior generation did. And that's what they strive for, right? But you're always going to have that one that says, no, that's not for me. I need to find my own way. See, this is something food for thought, you know. Is it better to have good parents or bad parents? And most would say good parents. Because good parents will teach a well-rounded child how to develop and how to act and so forth. Where a bad parent, they just keep having more kids and they don't have the first idea of how to raise a child. And if you're on poverty with a bad parent, society is taking care of them because they don't have the will or the willingness to take care of themselves. And they're rewarded to have more kids. They get more money. But for those kids that come out of a good parent or a bad parent, a lot of your kids that have bad parents, it's kind of like a split, right? Some will develop those traits and continue on and be a bad parent to their kids, right? But yet you get some kids that come out of that dynamics that says, I will not be this way with my child when I have kids. This is not the way to raise a child. I want the best things in life for my child. So now you have that one that's driven by negativity of not wanting what it's going through. If that makes any sense. It's all about the moment, enjoying the moment. But the theme today is too much of any good thing isn't good either. That you have to retrain the brain to look at the good stuff that's going on a daily basis. And if anything, the hand that you're dealt a lot of times will be the motivator or the demotivator of who you become. See, I'm under the idea that anybody can achieve anything if they so desire. But you have to have a roadmap to do it. You have to have the willingness and the drive to do it. And you have to have the OPA to get you through when times are tough instead of giving up. If you come from a family of poverty, do you have the same chance that a child that was born into a wealthy family has at succeeding? And a lot of people say, no, the woman with money has more chance of succeeding than you do born in poverty. And my thought process says, no, that's not correct either. Because the child that's born into money has never had to do anything, has never had to work, has never had to achieve anything. There's nothing expected of them. Right? Money can only create just so much happiness. It's one of the things that you hear me say a lot, my kids will tell you that, is I don't ever want to be wealthy. Wealthy enough so that I don't know who my friends are and who my friends aren't. And you've seen it with these lottery shows of how somebody wins the lottery, all of a sudden you have cousins coming out of the woodwork, with their hands out. Well, you never had time before, so why should I make time now, right? But it's just something to give thought to, You have to start looking more at the positive that's going on during the day, the things that you enjoy, and capitalizing on them, making them last longer, and less of the negative. And it's something that you can train yourself in a way. You can train the brain to do as well. And that is, if you know of a good thing, limit yourself of having that every so often instead of having it all the time. Because then that joy of having that banana split or ice cream sundae is less to the mind if you're having it all week long versus having it like Saturday nights or a Sunday after dinner treat. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. I know it's not going to be a long one, but I just thought we'd talk about that, that, when you're born, you don't have a choice of who your parents are. If you're going to be born in poverty or into wealth, you have no control over that. What you have control over is from that day forward and what you want to become. Don't allow your past to hold you back. You may have been poor for the first 20 or 25 years of your life. And now you're doing well, but you're discounting it because you feel guilty. Because other people in your family are still in poverty. And you can't. Really, you can't. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Enjoy the good times. And if you're like me, that you love fishing, if you do it all the time, then the body doesn't crave it as much. It still wants it, but it doesn't crave it. And then it kind of loses power that gave you delight. So on that note, you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you here bright early tomorrow morning. Again, thanks so much for watching. Just give it some thought. It's all here. All right.